It was early Sunday morning, February 29th, just 63 days ago. It was 4:45 a.m. That's when I wake up on Sunday mornings. And as I often do, one of the first things I did was open up my New York Times app to read the news. And that morning I read that overnight, the United States and Israel had begun bombing Iran. We were at war in a part of the world that was already a tinderbox, into which we yet again inserted ourselves and unleashed what the U.S. Department of Defense dubbed Operation Epic Fury. My heart broke a bit as I realized that not only had my country embarked on an unprovoked, illegal, and immoral war, but the cities, streets, buildings, and innocent civilians that were among the targets were known to me. 12 years ago, I walked those same streets of Tehran as I began my travels through Iran. I've often said that I believe the purpose of Unitarian Universalism, the purpose of our Unitarian Universalist faith, is to expand the boundaries of our heart. Amidst an American political and religious culture that teaches us that love is limited, that there isn't enough compassion or care for everybody, our Unitarian Universalist faith challenges us to expand the boundaries of our heart so that we can hold within it more and more and more until we can feel our fundamental interdependence with all of life. I was reminded of this 12 years ago when I was sitting in Shiraz, Iran, at the tomb of the great Iranian poet and mystic Hafez. In this sacred place, in a country that I had been reared to fear, an elderly Iranian woman recited from memory these words penned some 670 years ago. Out of a great need, we're all holding hands and climbing. Not loving is letting go. Listen, the terrain around here is far too dangerous for that. Hafez's words again, and if you're comfortable, would you say these with me? Out of a great need, we are all holding hands and climbing. Not loving is a letting go. Listen, the terrain around here is far too dangerous for that. 12 years ago, when I told my friends I was going to travel to Iran, many of them got this really worried look on their face. Isn't it too dangerous to go there? They asked. Most of us who grew up in the United States know of Iran from the news, from movies, and political propaganda. Our knowledge of Iran is usually limited and almost always skewed. Some of us are old enough to remember images from 46 years ago as angry mobs took over the American embassy. For others of us, it's just a picture we may have seen in a history book or on the web. A decade after that, our president pronounced Iran as part of the axis of evil. How many remember that proclamation? Yep. Even before the start of our current chosen war, social media was full of talking heads spouting about the evilness of Iranians. One could and can easily get the impression that Iran is this backwards country teeming with terrorists and fundamentalist zealots who hate Americans and want to destroy everything cultured and civilized. What I experienced 12 years ago was, yes, a country of complexities and complications. But first and foremost, I experienced a country of astonishing magnificence and splendor, populated by a people who prized intellectual curiosity, who could recite from memory some of the world's most exquisite and spiritually evocative poetry, who created elegant meals that were mouth-watering works of art, and who opened up their homes and extended a warmth and welcome that embodied the ethic of heartfelt hospitality. What I found was an extraordinary culture that has endured for 3,000 years, not 250, 3,000 years. What I found was a people and a country of undeniable beauty. Here's just the smallest glimpse. The dance between mosque, minaret, and midday sky. Blue and golds reaching toward the heavens. Sacred domes of careful handiwork. The immensity of Imam Square in Isfahan, one of the largest public squares in the world. Mosaics. The Kaju Bridge stretching across Zayandarud River. The Karim Khan Citadel in Shiraz. Garden after garden after garden. Fountain after fountain after fountain. The ancient ruins of Persepolis, the earliest of which date back 2,500 years to 515 BCE, a lasting testimony of a conquering empire. Bazaar after bazaar after bazaar. The streets of Yazd, the earth-toned desert city of Iran, and the Nasr al-Mulk Mosque in Shiraz, whose stained glass windows bathe worshipers in an amazing rainbow of light. As I moved through and as I experienced such truly staggering beauty, I thought of all those preconceptions I'd carried into the country. And I thought about this quote from Hafez: "Fear is the cheapest room in the house. I would like to see you living in better conditions." Now, this is not to say there isn't much to fear in Iran, especially today. We know it is ruled by an unrelenting authoritarian religious regime. It's a police state that has brutalized its people for decades, as did the American-backed Shah for decades before that. This recently escalated in unprecedented ways. We know of the 2022 arrests, torture, and killing of women protesting for personal freedom. We know that this January, the regime mowed down thousands upon thousands of protesters, most of them young people, shot dead in the street. Since January, 50,000 protesters or people suspected of dissent have been arrested. 50,000 since January. They've been arrested, denied contact with family, and face the death penalty for treason, for just protesting. Hangings are happening, even as we speak. 12 years ago, inside the privacy of their homes, I met Iranians who told me that their country was run by, quote, a group of crazies, a small group of fundamentalist religious crazies, end of quote. They said, this is not what we believe or who we are. In fact, there's a sizable secular side to Iran. I was stunned to learn that only 4% of Iranians regularly attend services in the country's 58,000 mosques. The people I talked to looked at Islam as a conquering religion that displaced their own native Zoroastrianism. Now, this isn't to say that there aren't many devout, faithful, non-fundamentalist Muslims in Iran. But Iran is a country of complexities and contradictions. For instance, 12 years ago when I was there, Iran would flog and hang gay men, while government policies supported its transgender citizens and subsidized their gender reassignment surgery, something that doesn't happen in the United States. In a country where Sharia law prohibits alcoholic beverages, I had some of the best home-brewed beer and bathtub gin I've ever tasted. 12 years ago, when I was in Iran, many forms of freedom were visible. Unlike in Afghanistan, where I had been 2 years prior, women were outside. Women were everywhere. Young couples walked hand in hand in the parks and gardens, not in Afghanistan, but in Iran. College-age lovers flirted and hung out together on the grassy promenade along the river in Esfahan. Women wore the hijab, but it was often worn far back on the head, providing a clear view of their hair, which was often beautifully styled. Tight, body-fitting, skinny jeans were popular with many, many young women and men. Appearing fashionable was valued, and many urban teens and young adults were dressing in the newest and sleekest styles from Europe. Which circles us back 3,000 years to that ancient Persian culture which so values beauty. It values beauty in a myriad of forms. Beauty of presentation, beauty of color, the beauty of texture, the beauty of sound, the beauty of contrast, the beauty of attention to detail, the beauty of history, the beauty of continuity, the beauty of life itself. You see it in Yazd, where the Zoroastrian fire temple, in that temple, as I said earlier, a flame has burned continuously for 1,500 years. That one single flame has been carefully tended for over 1,500 years and has never allowed to be extinguished. Talk about attention to detail. You also see beauty in other rich spiritual traditions in Iran. The teachings of the classical Persian mystics are treasured. They're memorized and recited. as I've said, considered the greatest of all the Persian poets, Hafez is one of the most popular religious voices in Iran and in the world. Even Unitarian Ralph Waldo Emerson respected Hafez's wisdom. He said, Ralph Waldo Emerson himself, quote, "Hafez sees so far, Hafez sees throughout. Such is the only person I wish to see or be." End of quote. In the city of Yazd, a young boy proudly shared with me this story, first told by Hafez some 670 years ago. It goes like this. Once upon a time, a young woman came to Hafez and said, "What is the one sign of someone knowing God?" And Hafez became very quiet, stood in silence for over a minute, lovingly looking deep into that young person's eyes. Finally, Hafez spoke. "My dear, they have dropped the knife. The person who knows God has dropped the cruel knife so often used upon themselves and others." Hafez believed that the purpose of life is to expand the boundaries of our heart. And that begs questions. In what way are you being called to expand the boundaries of your heart? Where does your love and compassion stop? Who might you be excluding? Who do you look on as other? It makes me wonder, in what way are we as a church community being called to expand the boundaries of our collective heart? Where does our love and compassion stop? Who might we be still excluding? Who is left out? Here in the United States, even as our own authoritarian regime is trying to drive out or destroy diversity and democracy, how are we as a country being called to re-expand the boundaries of our collective heart? Who is being left out that must now be welcomed in? Hafez knows how hard it can be to do this. Some 670 years ago, he wrote, "Leave the familiar for a while. Make a new watermark on your excitement and love. All the hemispheres in existence lie beside an equator in your heart." This is what I discovered when 12 years ago I journeyed to Iran. The people I met there, the culture I experienced there expanded the boundaries of my heart so that I could hold much more in love, understanding, and respect. So I could better feel our fundamental interdependence with all life. Dear ones, that doesn't change the complexities and contradictions of Iran, but it did teach me that there is great, great beauty beyond boundaries and borders. Que así sea, bendito sea. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.